Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street. And this is lenders who help it grow. Lance and Katie, good to see you both. Chris Hearn, CEO, founder of Fountainhead Capital out of Orlando. Chris, what are you wearing there, my friend?
Oh, I'm just getting excited for the NCAA tournament. So this is my shirt from 3 years ago when my undergrad school went all the way to the Final Four.
Seconds, but people don't remember what Loyola, right? Go ahead.
Loyola, Chicago is where I went to undergrad. Yeah, I got 2 degrees from there, and they went to the Final Four. There was the great Cinderella story, and as I was joking with Lance before he came on, I said, other than Sister Jean, I'm the biggest fan out there. Other than the fact that PPP is keeping me away from going to Indianapolis this weekend, so we'll see if they advance the first 2 games. And
March Madness. This is the good type of madness. That the other type of madness last March. Hey, we got a lot of stuff. Let's get into it. Number one, have the regulators discuss the impacts of 11-12 payments on your loan portfolio? I'm just curious if those conversations are going on out there. Chris, you're unique. You don't necessarily have bank regulators looking at you, but you have other types of
Yeah, my regulator is SBA, so I have a feeling they're going to be perfectly fine with this. I have not heard from them about this, but I suspect will be
7%, Lance. 1 in 10. Is that? Have you heard anything?
Well, I'm not real surprised, but because 11-12 payments have not had a negative impact on a portfolio. Right. You know, the question is, the big question that comes into play is it just putting off the inevitable?
Right, and that's what the regulators are asking.
That's right.
From what I've talked to a couple of lenders, it's just been a conversation. They're not going to take action. It's just hey, what's your thinking? What are you doing for loan loss reserves, et cetera, et cetera. And what Lance has been preaching all along, get ready for the servicing and liquidation dump.
Well, I think that you know, there are a lot of great businesses that are getting 11-12 payments, and it's had a positive impact. But there are some businesses that the 11-12 payments is what has kept their head above water. So the question is, when they stop, what happens?
Well, we know what's going to happen. Yeah, we know what's going to happen. Which brings us to our second question: Have you adjusted your credit policy? This is internal. Could be SBA. I left it broad to exclude a particular industry. I'm surprised by that, Chris. What are you doing in your shop?
We have not to exclude any particular industries, but there's certainly industries that we're much tougher on, as I think everybody is. But you know, I always fall back on the old adage, Bob, that every loan, every deal is a unique deal that needs to be looked at on its own merits. So,
well, and the problem you run into, Bob, is let's say you adjust your credit policy and say you don't want to do hospitality. And then you have somebody walk in with a hotel project in Branson, Missouri, which is still doing well, with a 50% cash equity injection.
And an existing customer who's done very, very well for you. And I certainly...
I agree with Chris's comments. I think most every institution has industries that require a deeper dive into underwriting and a closer look.
Yeah, but the problem is, though, guys, is as you know, there's chief credit officers out there who just take the position that the best loan they can make is the one that can't go bad. And so right now, times like now is when they're just going to exclude an industry entirely because they don't want to take any risk. And it's unfortunate because I do think you got to look at the merits of every deal individually.
Right.
You just can't categorically wipe them all off, because unless you want that perfect deal coming through the door next, because almost assuredly it will as soon as you decide to exclude that industry.
What is your attitude towards construction in your credit policy?
My guess, Bob, is they're going to fall into a little stricter. Yeah.
Very good. Good call, Lance. Boy, I'm impressed. Chris, you and I have talked. I think that's where you are as well. Just looking at these a little bit closer.
Yeah, I wish there was a medium point between a little stricter and significantly stricter, because I think that's where we're at. And I actually think there's a lot more people that are significantly stricter than they're admitting here in this poll.
Finally, how much competition are you feeling with your third-party portfolio loans? Specifically, how concerned are you that these loans are paying off? And how concerned are you about the refi where you may be losing business? So that's what I'm getting at on that. Or how concerned are you that you're going to be losing some of your portfolio to your competitor? Have to say it's not a worry.
Well, I think that some of the new rules with 504 does allow refinancing of that third-party loan, but I think a lot of what you'll see, Bob, within that, and Chris, help me if I'm wrong, will be the existing third-party lender doing a new loan to get a little more capital into the hands of the borrower. I think that's what we'll see most of.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, if you're able to refinance out another lender's third-party loan, which you can do now, it's a little bit more cumbersome of a process versus what we expect is coming for the regulations. But I think the big critical piece is, like you said, Lance, is to be able to tap some of the embedded equity to give 504 proceeds for non-real estate or equipment-related purposes. I think that's going to be another source of working capital funds that a lot of businesses will be very grateful for.
Hey, Lance, this is a good time to talk about our webinar tomorrow. We decided to push it. In fact, we just decided it. So for those of you signed up, we'll get an email out to you. Chris, Lance, why are we pushing this? Why are we going to push it?
Well, there's other as with every area of SBA lending, there are additional regulations that are coming out that will add more meat and more depth to the presentation. An example of that is, we believe we'll get regulations on being able to refinance a 504 loan with a new 504 loan. And, but we don't have guidance from SBA yet. It's expected in the next week to 2 weeks.
Right. And that's why we're going to push it. Yeah. So, and I think that makes a lot of sense. It doesn't make sense to, we have a product that's only halfway there. So we'll go ahead and do that.
Well, Bob,
Katie?
my good friend Harry at Capital CDC called and said, "Hey, Lance,
Right.
you know something I don't know about?" But we had a discussion, and really there'll be more depth if we wait till the new regs come out.
Right.
This is terrible. I mean, I haven't seen Harry in years, and you mentioned the name, and shout out to you. We haven't seen our friends in years, so hopefully that'll change.
And they've been PPP years, which are like dog years. So
that's right. That's right. Katie, how you doing? You're over there awfully quiet.
Yeah, so I guess we're going to go into this section now.
There we go. Katie, earn your money. What's going on with the second draw PPP applications from first draw borrowers? In fact, we have a question right for that, but go ahead. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so we've been getting a lot of questions about this, and so far we had heard most lenders saying that they had not been able to do this, but the ABA did post this morning that the SBA has informed them that they are beginning to accept second draw PPP applications from borrowers who previously submitted a first draw application this calendar year. So that's going to be all those ones that just recently got their first draw. If they have used their loan or are expecting to use their loan soon, and it's planned they're going to use it up, then they may go ahead and apply for that second draw. Now, the SBA did say that they're going to have that first draw loan be fully dispersed, and that's going to have to be reflected in E-Tran. And of course, you can kind of push that along by going with the 1502 process and starting with that. That'll push it along and make E-Tran recognize that that has been fully dispersed, and that will allow them to apply for that second draw.
Thank you, Katie.
Go ahead, Lance.
You answered a question that's been asked multiple times. Can you do a first and second draw loan together? Which the answer has always been no, but now there is an opportunity for those first draw candidates to get a second draw.
Do they have to wait? We got questions from Donald and Jeff. Do they have to wait the 8 weeks, gentlemen?
Yeah, see, that was what I was about to interject and say is I started hearing about this late last week that it was coming, and I actually thought they'd wait a little bit longer on this. But I have not heard clarity on are they going to are you going to be restricted to waiting 8 weeks? And which means that if you got a first draw PPP loan in late January, which is about as early as you could have gotten, that means you still probably have to wait until probably next week or so to be at the 8-week period. I would argue that seems appropriate for employer firms. I don't think it's appropriate for a self-employed business owner. I think they should actually have a much shorter time frame, maybe 15 days or something after it's fully dispersed. So we'll see. I don't know that SBA is fully given all the instructions to the lending community just yet on this.
Okay.
Which that kind of answers Donald's question, I see. Sort of answers. Not quite.
We got a bunch of questions in here. Let's see. Let me go to Russell. Russell says, interesting comment. Historically, 504 loans are bad performers in a recession. Comment, Chris?
Well, I don't. That's not my experience, Russell. I don't know. I mean, I know that there was some in the last recession. I think you saw much higher defaults than you'd seen in any previous one on that particular loan product. But I think that was more of a reflection of the type of recession that we had, which was more real estate.
I wouldn't use the word bad. I would say they perform not as well. I'll go along with that statement.
Right. But I mean, over the 35-year history of the 504 program, I mean, in general, their default rate has averaged about a third of the 7A default rate. So I think it was more of an anomaly of the type of recession that we had back in 2008 to 2010, 11.
Yeah, Chris makes a great point. That was a real estate related recession. Right. And I was actually at the servicing center, and our 504 servicing department was quite busy during that period of time, but it's a very different event than what we're going through right now.
Right. Yep, for sure.
We get a lot of questions on dates. Follow up from Russell. PPP borrowers 10 months from the end of their covered period to submit forgiveness. Once they've submitted their application and it is either pending or under review, does the borrower have to begin making payments while it's on limbo?
They're supposed to.
There you go.
Well, you got a 12-month. You had the 10-month deferral, but then you had the additional 6-month deferral in the IFR way back. So that gives you 16 months. I don't think anybody's up against a 16-month wall just yet. So we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary next month of the earliest borrowers, but I still think they're going to have another 4 months thereafter. They should be fine. So
we're not there. We're not there yet.
No.
Bob, I'm now encouraging, because I get, and Chris, I know you do too, a bunch of phone calls from borrowers about forgiveness, and I am telling them it's time. Get your application together. Yep,
I agree. Particularly for the 1-page forgiveness form. So.
Let's see. Katie, what's going on with idle loans?
Yeah, so the SBA announced, I believe last night, that all disaster loans, including idle loans, made in calendar year 2020 will have their first payment due date extended 12 months. So it'll now be a total of 24 months from the date of the note. They also clarified that loans made in 2021, these are all disaster loans, and again, including idle, will have their first payment due date extended 12 months to 18 months from the date of the note. So they're just extending all of those.
Very good. Katie, you have some interesting stats. By the way, this is a great report. I don't encourage you to read all 120 pages, but you should download it. I was just checking. We don't have it in the chat box. We'll either, Joseph, can you add that in real quick? Or, excuse me, the handout box. Just Google SBA Annual Budget 2020. But these are some of their highlights. And anything stick out to you, Katie?
Yeah, I thought it was actually pretty surprising. I expected them to not be really moving so close to their goals. I mean, some of the things they were a little low on. They made some goals that just, they didn't know COVID was going to happen. They didn't know places were going to close and we're going to have the PPP program and anything like that. So they were a little low on certain things, like how many jobs they plan to support through capital assistance programs and things like that. But even that was pretty close to what their goal was, or surprisingly closer than you would have expected with a disaster kind of situation. They're on track to meet almost all of their goals. And I thought it was actually an excellent report to kind of keep, perspective that the SBA is still able to meet a lot of these goals, and they actually surpassed several of them. They're doing quite well with their Lender Connect. They connected far more lenders than they expected to this year, almost double what they expected, actually. And they're doing quite well with contracting. I know the federal government didn't quite meet their goal, but the SBA is stepping in and helping them try to reach that goal this year. Other than that, they're really just barely under on certain goals like events to raise awareness of SBA products. That was just on 9 events short of their target. So they really are on target, and it's great to see that they're on target to do most of their agency goals.
Katie, I love this next chart. It puts it in perspective of how much lending we're dealing with. That last column are SBA, all of the SBA lending, almost $900 billion, almost $1 trillion after $100 billion a year. So that puts it a 500% increase, right, Katie?
Yeah, it's quite remarkable looking at it like this, especially considering we all know PPP was such a large portion of it, but you don't really realize that until you look at it in perspective like this, just how much larger it was than the previous fiscal years. It doesn't really give you too much of an idea, but 7A was slightly down. But you can see PPP really took that place and went far above what we would have ever expected in previous years.
I'll go to the delinquency charts real quick, and as you can see, Lance, this is near and dear to your heart, that gold line. It's a 7A delinquency rate, and it is rapidly approaching 0, if not 0.
Well, if somebody's making your payments for you, delinquency is not an issue. But again, the 11, 12 payments, that it's not ended, but for a lot of borrowers, they will get their February and March payment, and that'll be the end of the 11, 12 payments for some borrowers. New loans that were extended are going to get 6 payments made, but we will probably see the delinquency rate creep up as the year goes on.
Chris, the purpose of this chart, I'm sure you use this in your analysis as well, is we wanted to show that charge-offs lag significantly past the delinquencies. This is what it takes, what I would call for the the rat to go through the snake. It takes a couple of years to liquidate these and charge these all off.
That's right.
So I suspect we're going to see some increases. When do you start, Lance? 2021 or with 2022? What's if you had to choose what year was going to peak on charge-offs, what year would you pick?
No, I'm going probably late 22, early 23.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah. By the way, let's not end on a bad note, because back to Katie's statistics, it is just simply staggering what has gone through SBA over the last 12 months. I mean, I just can't, and I know everybody on this call today gets that if you've been in SBA lending for a while, but the people that are outside of our little SBA world, I just don't think they can truly grasp. You take an agency who was doing at best $100 billion a year per the stats that Katie was showing, and suddenly did $900 billion. And the labor hours that have been put in by this industry, not just SBA obviously, but the lending community as well. It is absolutely mind-blowing, and it's truly an amazing feat that's been accomplished, and it's continuing, and hopefully it will continue for a few more months because of these extraordinary circumstances we're in. But it is just, everybody needs to be commended, not just at SBA, but also in the industry itself. I mean, it has just been amazing, truly just staggering.
Yeah, thank you for that, Chris. That's very important. And I know Katie's, we were talking about fraud, and Katie did a great report a couple of weeks ago. On a percentage basis, the fraud is minimal. Yeah, the Lamborghinis and those things grab the headlines, but the fraud is minimal, especially PPP2. The fraud is going to be very, very minimal. Chris is smiling.
Well, I hope so. I'm not smiling about the Lamborghinis. I'm smiling that your words to God's ears that the fraud is minuscule this round, hopefully.
Yeah, very good. And let's see, we have one more chart of 504 delinquencies. Let's pull that one up. That's two slides out, Joseph.
There it is.
Oh, there it is. Okay. And as you can see, that also tracks. You can see the spike. We'd like those spikes down to 0. And there is a charge off that, as Russell noted, during the Great Recession, 504 did have some charge offs, but historically, as Chris has said, they do perform better than 7A. And
you'll have worse. By the way, you'll have the charge-offs for 504 will be pushed out a little bit later.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
7A, of course, because you got the interaction between the CDC and the third-party lender, of course. So the peak is probably going to be 23 for 504s.
Yeah.
But I agree with what Lance said about late 22, 23 for 7As.
Ton of questions. We're going to post them all up on PPP. NCDS, sign up for that. Thank you all for that. And Chris, thank you very much. I know you're busy. PPP, you're not going to Indianapolis to follow your Loyola. What's the mascot?
The Ramblers.
What are they?
Well, it's the Ramblers,
That's right.
but we have a wolf. I'm not entirely sure what all that's about, but
Yeah, that's right. The Ramblers.
I'm not sure a hobo is very PC these days, which is what our previous mascot was. So now we have a wolf. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm serious. The Rambler was like a guy who was hopping on trains and traveling across the country. Because we actually stole it before Notre Dame could take that mascot name, and then they took the Fighting Irish instead of the rambling Notre Dame Irish. So yeah, interesting. Little factoid for everybody.
Yeah, go Wolves. Okay. Thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a good day.
Have a great day.